Hello and welcome to The Straight Line. I am Pallavi Sareen and I have with me right now IG Jammu Mr. Manish Sinha. So first of all, Mr. Sinha, welcome on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Sinha, as soon as you were posted as IG Jammu, there was a law and order situation here. The Pulwama attack happened and then there was the curfew. Many cars were vandalized and burnt down. So has there been any action against the perpetrators as yet?
Action to the extent that, yes, the FIRs were registered because they were all acts of arson, so we had registered FIRs, and after clubbing the important ones, I constituted an SIT under the supervision of SP North, that is Shri Amit Pal Singh, as an IPS officer. And that SIT has done some commendable work. They went through the video footage, they went through the photographs, they tried identifying as to who the main perpetrators were. And the last time that I had supervised it, I would not have the current data, but the last time that I had taken a meeting and reviewed the case, 38 persons had got arrested.
But as far as I know, no one was booked under PSA, even though the situation warranted it. Isn't that true?
The situation warranted booking under PSA. No, I don't think the situation. I mean, PSA is used when somebody is a threat to public peace. And if he has become a threat to public peace and you cannot prosecute him legally in the case, then you take recourse to a detention under Public Safety Act so that he is kept out of circulation. It is not that it is a sine qua non as far as investigation is concerned.
So after that entire curfew thing happened, there was the grenade blast at bus stand, and then recently the Kishtwar killing of Chanderkant Sharma. So has there been any leads in the Chanderkant Sharma killing?
Yes, we're working on so many leads that we have got. We were able to identify the vehicle which was used by the militants or the terrorists to decamp from the place where this incident happened. We have also been able to draw a timeline to it. We have been able to identify one of the persons who was involved in the incident. What exactly was the role played by him is still a little conjectural. We have not been able to arrive at a conclusion. But we're trying to figure out as to where he is. He's absconding at the moment. We also have certain leads to tell us as to who were the actual shooters. But yes, the operations are live and the investigation goes on.
But within a short span of maybe 6 months, firstly there was the Parya brothers killing and then there was Chanderkant Sharma killing. Would you say that militancy is returning to Jammu region as well and is not just restricted to the valley?
I would say that Kishtwar was never free of terrorism. While I was DIG Doda Kishtwar Ramban range, we got the last terrorists of Ramban and Doda, and it was during my tenure that they were declared as terrorist-free districts. But that never happened in Kishtwar. Yes, it is true that the number of terrorists who were permanently resident in Kishtwar has seen an upswing. And what the numbers, we at the moment have 8 listed terrorists who are operating in Kishtwar region. So yes, because they are armed and because they have the guns with them and because they have the nefarious designs, so obviously they perpetrate some incident or the other, and we are trying to neutralize them as early as possible.
So there are 8 active militants. What about the overground workers? Do you have a figure yet?
Yeah, of course, we keep updating it. It is a dynamic figure. It keeps changing. Whosoever keeps coming on into our notice, I mean, it's sort of a tree. From one OGW, we come to another OGW, and so on and so forth. So when we work out the network, we keep listing them. There is a proper method of maintaining a record of OGWs which are operating in the jurisdiction of each station.
Another thing I had in mind was Operation Sanjeevani. I've seen you doing a tremendous job, and I heard about drugs being detained as a matter of routine. I see drug peddlers being arrested. But the question is that even then, drugs find their ways into the narrow alleys of Jammu region, and many youngsters are dying because of drugs. So don't you think that there has been a lapse on your part wherein you have been unable to break that chain of that supply intermediary and consumer, because drugs are still kind of rotting in the Jammu society?
First and foremost, it's a very, very sad and very unfortunate thing. I feel, I mean, now I'm father to a young lad, and I feel very, very deeply when I meet any one of the family members, the youngster of that family, if he has become a drug addict. I do go to the drug rehabilitation center. It's a story which is full of grief and trauma. But I would not say that it's a lapse on our part. You have to understand that it is, after all, a market. And the market is primarily composed of three things: the suppliers, the consumers, and the intermediaries, or the traders. And all three are present in this market. It's a lucrative market. It is an enticing market for anyone to enter. The consumers want to consume it. And it is not that we do not want to disrupt the chain. I mean, we obviously attack the problem at the supply side mostly, because that is where the police emphasis lies. We want to disrupt the chain. We plant our molds. But it is very easy for the chains to proliferate. I mean, you catch hold of one chain, but because there are consumers and because there are suppliers at the back end, so there would be another chain which will come into the market, and they will start operating. Actually, to my understanding, if we have to win the war, I mean, we can keep winning these small battles here and there. But if we have to win the war, we first and foremost have to make it into a mass movement, and a movement which is spearheaded primarily by the parents and the school and college teachers. They have to make the youngster realize that this is a sure shot way to perdition, that this is a drug paved way to hell. And that you are not going to get back to your mental and physical faculties if you indulge in it. It is only when the consumer does not want to consume that the suppliers will not be able to supply. Well, if I say that, I am also acutely aware of the police role in it. We're trying to address the problem of the youth who has become addicted by having our rehabilitation centers. We're trying to upgrade it. I have recently been in discussion with my counterparts in Punjab. I want to upgrade my rehabilitation facilities. At the same time, I'm trying to work myself backwards, try to get to the root of the supply, as close to the kingpins as possible. It is not that easy. I mean, it may sound very easy theoretically, but it's very, very, because the kingpin does not in fact figure in the chain at all. I mean, he's not even giving the orders. He's merely orchestrating it like a puppeteer.
Staying somewhere in Colombia and just
staying anywhere. I mean, he may be sitting in Mumbai for all you know, and he's merely a puppeteer, and he's having his puppets do the things. It is happening at many levels. We're trying to figure out as to where from it is happening, but we have certain problems. Like, for example, the supply primarily is from across, and we have the cultivators going right bang up to the zero line for cultivation. So you just have to fling a few packets of heroin onto this side, and then it finds its way into the hinterland. Now, to disrupt that is not that easy, and therefore we try planting our molds, we try putting them under surveillance, active surveillance, and wherever and whenever we get an information wave. In fact, you'll be happy to know that the number of catches this year is much more than the comparative figures of last year. And it does not say much about making a dent in the real drug story, because the catches may be going up, but there is nothing to suggest that the problem is going down. The problem is there. So it is a multifaceted problem which requires a multifaceted and multi-pronged response from the state. And now the state has also come up with a drug rehabilitation policy. So we are all working in tandem to ensure that the youngster can be weaned away from this pernicious influence of drugs.
But don't you think another problem is that the penal punishment for drug peddlers isn't as strong? You might arrest a few drug peddlers, but after a few months or years, they will be bailed out, and then the vicious cycle starts all over again.
I would not say that it is the penal provisions are not stringent enough. They are stringent enough. The Narcotic and Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act has very stringent provisions. And if at all, it has to be made even more stringent, than actually the legislators have to look into it, my opinion.
Finally, I would like to ask you, how difficult has it been being the IG Jammu?
It's just like a job. IG Jammu is a challenging assignment. There's no doubt about it. You have multifarious things to attend to. You have to multitask, and you have to have a multiplexer in your mind in order to multitask. There are hundreds and thousands of things which are happening all at a time. These last few months have been particularly challenging because of some terrorist-related incidents that have happened. As you told, the grenade attack, the weapon statue incident, the recent killing that has happened in Kishnawar, the card bomb that did not go as per plans of the terrorists in Balahal. And it was also the period of elections and preparations for elections. So these have been challenging times, but we have been up to the challenge and we have been facing it head on.
But regarding the previous curfew thing, I forgot to mention one thing, that people have been largely blaming the police, saying that the incidents that happened in Gujar Nagar, in Janipur, in Khadika Talab were largely due to an administrative failure, because police was there on the ground and still so many vehicles were vandalized and burned down.
But somebody also has to compliment the police for not allowing the physical clashes to happen, for people not to have stabbed each other, for people not to have died. So there was a decision to be taken. I mean, the forces were not adequate enough to do all the things at that point of time. The two groups were almost head to head, and the priority over there was to prevent a physical clash from happening and from a few people to get injured or get killed. So that was the primary responsibility of the police. Vehicles, yes, they did get burnt, but then that is not as big a loss as a loss of life is.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Mr. Sinha. You have been very forthcoming. And this was Mr. Sinha. This is Pallavi Sareen on Straight Line signing off.